Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a deep cut, a text that's almost 165 years old.
Hmm.
But its central message feels like it could have been written yesterday. It's all about that gap between what you say you believe and, well, how you actually live.
It's incredibly modern.
Our source material is this fiercely blunt 1859 sermon by Charles Spurgeon, and the title just grabs you, How Saints May Help the Devil. So our mission today is to really analyze this tension, the massive external damage caused when people don't live up to their own high ideals.
What's fascinating here is that his critique isn't really aimed at the usual suspects, the external critics or atheists.
Right.
He's talking about the internal failings inside the group that basically hand ammunition to those critics. He frames the whole thing around a verse from Ezekiel.
Which says what exactly?
It essentially says that the failures of the righteous become a comfort unto them, meaning a comfort to the wicked. Yes. He argues that the sins of the devout are what give the wicked their refuges of lies. They become the perfect, ready-made excuses for people to just continue in their own rebellion.
Yeah.
It's not just moralizing, it's a strategic critique.
Okay, so before we even get into the list of failures, Spurgeon first establishes why a sinner even needs an excuse. He's pretty forceful on this point.
He is. He says that being in a state of rebellion is just fundamentally, it's uncomfortable. The wicked man is uneasy. He knows deep down that he's not in a secure position.
So he's looking for a way to soothe his conscience.
Exactly. He needs a cushion, a reason to say, I'll change later, or to claim that changing is, out of his power. And this is why a truly consistent moral person is such a threat.
Because they're a living protest against all of that. They're like a mirror.
A mirror that makes the worldling's own life look more terrible, just by contrast. So if that consistent person exists and is, happy and secure, the whole excuse machine just sort of grinds to a halt.
Which is why, when they can't find a real fault, the critic has to invent one.
Immediately. They resort to slander, or they just attack the motive.
He brings up the classic example of Job.
Right. The devil can't find a single flaw in his behavior, so the attack shifts instantly. It becomes a question.
Doth Job serve God for naught?
Precisely. The accusation becomes, oh, he's only good for what he can get out of it, for personal gain. It's not sincere, it's just a transaction.
And here's where Spurgeon has this brilliant counterintuitive take. He says that being falsely accused like that of hypocrisy or bad motives is a glorious accusation.
I love that phrase, or glorious accusation.
What does he mean by that?
It means it's proof of victory. If your enemies have, and this is a quote, ransacked all the files of their calumny, and the absolute worst they can come up with is to invent a bad motive for your good deeds.
It means they found nothing else.
Exactly. It proves they have no other charge. It's like a backhanded compliment that shows you've beaten them on the actual facts of your behavior.
But that's the setup, isn't it? Because then he delivers the crushing blow.
The melancholy admission, yes. He says, for the most part, critics don't have to invent anything. The hypocrisy is real. He says the church has given a real bona fide cause for the wicked to make excuses.
Okay, let's get into those bona fide inconsistencies, because this is where a sermon from 1859 feels like it could be a blog post from this morning. He starts with worldliness and covetousness.
Yeah, he's just shocked by it.
Yeah.
He sees people who profess that their real treasure is in heaven, but then are just as earnest about earthly things as anyone.
He doesn't pull any punches on the details either.
Not at all.
Yeah.
He says the religious man will drive the screw home as tightly on a debtor, that they're just as hard as griping, as grasping as any merchant out there, that the spiritual talk is just completely canceled out by the financial reality.
It's the classic disconnect between a mission statement and a balance sheet, right? The world looks at that and says your whole protest against greed has lost its force.
And they say, look, you tell us we're chasing shadows, but you are chasing the exact same thing we are, cash and comfort. It validates materialism for everybody.
And that worldliness flows right into pride, class, and status.
Oh, he just rails against the vanity. He says Christians are just as fond of dress and all the frivolities of the age. They might sing hymns about jewels being gaudy toys, but they're still just as fond of glittering.
He even goes after the more subtle intellectual pride, the academic titles, the doctors of divinity.
Yes, being just as punctilious about honorifics and titles as anyone else. It's a kind of spiritual status signaling.
But the real bite, I think, is when he talks about classism inside the community.
The manifest pride, yes, how members are as aristocratic as anybody else. He has that incredibly sharp line about the Sister of Christ in satin, who thinks it's a huge deal to even acknowledge a fellow member in an unwashable print.
Wow. And that focus on respectability and wealth completely betrays their origins, doesn't it?
It does, and the world sees it. He says their taunt is, "You, the disciples of the fishermen of Galilee, not you. You are too fine and great for that." They've swapped their mission for status.
He doesn't see these as small mistakes.
No, these are sins that restrain the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
He says if you're so worried about who sits where and what people are wearing, you can't possibly be focused on the real work.
And if the external stuff wasn't bad enough, he turns to the internal rot, the strife and division.
Right. The world is watching and sees no love, just enmities and strifes.
He paints a pretty grim picture.
Devastating. The deacons are in arms and how the members hate one another. He's asking, why would anyone want to join a group that can't even be civil to each other?
And then there's the complaining, the murmuring.
People who claim to trust in this divine plan are constantly full of unbelieving cares, always grumbling about the badness of the times or the high price of things.
Which is just more fuel for the cynic.
The best fuel. The worldling looks at all that complaining and just says, why would I pluck out the sunbeam from my eye? I get more pleasure out of life than you do.
It's the ultimate counter-argument. If your great faith doesn't help you in adversity as much as my simple pragmatism helps me, then why would I ever make that trade?
Exactly. If you're just a driveling set of crying creatures, the appeal is zero.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the actual damage, because Spurgeon makes this, it's an extreme, almost unbelievable claim about the scale of the damage.
It's designed to shock you. It really is. He says that while preachers are trying to build things up, one inconsistent professor has infinitely more power to pull down.
And here's the claim itself. He argues that the inconsistencies of modern believers have done more hurt to the cause of Christ than all the burnings of pagan tyrants or tortures of popish executioners in history.
Okay, hold on. We have to unpack that. How could passive hypocrisy possibly be worse than, systematic murder and persecution?
It's a strategic argument, not a moral one. Persecution, like a martyr being burned, actually clarifies things. It confirms the sincerity of the belief.
Right. It strengthens the cause in a way. It kills the body, but not the idea.
Exactly. But inconsistency does the opposite. It kills the idea. It kills the soul by giving the sinner a reason to sleep on quietly. It's like a soporific draft, an ideological sleeping pill for a guilty conscience.
So the inconsistent Christian gives the sinner permission. I may do what he does.
Precisely. And he grounds this in the scandals of his own day, mentioning the scoundrel bankrupts, who were also very prominent religious men.
But the anecdote he tells is what really drives the point home. The one about the young minister.
It's just devastating. So this minister preaches a really powerful sermon. A young man is deeply moved, wants to talk, wants counsel. He walks home with the preacher.
And he's looking for guidance in that critical moment.
But the minister, instead of giving it, just starts telling coarse and frivolous tales, laughing loudly, completely shattering the mood. All that gravity from the sermon just poof, gone.
And the moment is lost.
Years later, the minister visits that same man, who is now on his deathbed, and he finds out the man is a complete skeptic.
And the man tells him why. He says the minister's levity that night, that total disconnect, convinced him it was all a falsehood. He said, I became a confirmed infidel from that day to this.
And the final line the dying man says to the preacher is just chilling.
What is it?
He says, I'm about to be damned, and at the bar of God I will lay my damnation to your charge. My blood is on your head.
Wow. So the minister's casual conversation did infinitely more harm than his powerful sermon did good.
Yes. That one moment of carelessness became the man's ultimate, unshakable refuge of lies.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the sermon then pivots to just dismantle that very excuse. The sinner's final argument, I see hypocrisy, therefore I'm off the hook.
He calls it a vain excuse, and his logic is just brutally simple. He asks, what does another person's failure have to do with you? You're punished for your own offenses, not theirs.
Right. There's no transferable guilt.
He uses these great analogies. If 20 people drink poison, that's not a good reason for you to drink it too.
Or if hundreds commit suicide, it doesn't excuse you for taking your own life. You can't use someone else's self-destruction to justify your own.
And you certainly couldn't use that logic in court, could you? You can't tell a judge, well, Your Honor, excuse my theft, but there are a lot of hypocrites out there who pretend to be honest.
No, that would just add insult to wickedness.
But I think his best point is the counterfeit argument.
Oh, it's brilliant. The very existence of bad coins, of counterfeits, is absolute proof that good, real ones exist.
Nobody would bother making a fake if the real thing wasn't valuable.
Exactly. No one makes bad sovereigns if there were no good ones. So seeing a counterfeit shouldn't make you cynical. It should make you more determined to find the genuine article.
So what does this all mean? This sermon from 1859 feels like a radical blueprint for accountability, doesn't it? It says your personal conduct has these huge public consequences.
It's a demand for absolute consistency. He offers this final solemn warning. Yeah. You must be either doing good or evil. There is no borderland.
No neutral ground.
None. You're either building up the cause you claim to believe in, or you're actively helping to tear it down by giving other people an excuse for their own cynicism.
Which brings us to that final, powerful traitor analogy.
It's so vivid. He says, imagine an invasion. If you found English soldiers marching in the ranks of the enemy, the French, what would you call them?
Traitors. They'd be executed.
And he applies that directly. If you say you follow a high ideal, but your actions, your greed, your pride, your complaining are actually serving the other side, if you're wearing the uniform of hell.
You're not just a bad soldier, you're a traitor. You're actively doing mischief for the enemy.
It's an overwhelming statement on personal responsibility.
It really is. And it leaves you with this provocative thought. If any belief system's greatest threat isn't the external attack but the internal betrayal, what does that say about the responsibility of anyone today who claims to follow a high ideal? Whether it's faith, a political cause, corporate ethics, you name it, does enthusiasm without that strict, visible self-discipline always just amount to a power to pull down? Something for you to consider as you look at the ideals you profess and the life you actually live.